What is up, ladies and gentle nerds? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today it is another edition of the Overthinking MTG podcast, the show where we look at an individual Magic card and talk about it for about 10 minutes. Or more if I'm feeling saucy. And today we're going to be touching on a new card that was just spoiled today as of this recording from the new Dungeons & Dragons set, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. And yeah, this is the one that we've all been waiting for, and it is Drizzt Do'Urden. I'm going to go ahead and assume I pronounced that correctly, and I'm going to say Drizzt for the remainder of this, and I really hope that's right. But so Drizzt Do'Urden, it is a 3/3 for 5, which... I'll be honest, my first impression on this card when I first saw it was, holy cow, this is amazing. And the truth is, the more I thought about it, the more amazing it became. So let's take a look at it. So it is a 3/3 for 3 green-white with double strike. That alone is worth the price of admission. 3/3 double strike for 5, not bad. When Drizzt Do'Urden enters the battlefield, create Gwanhvar, a legendary 4/1 green cat creature token with trample, whose name is very difficult to pronounce. Now, so Gwanhvar is a 4/1 green cat creature token that you just get for free as a bonus to having Drizzt, which, if I'm not mistaken, they were very close allies in the story of the various Forgotten Realms novels, so it makes sense. And then whenever a creature dies, if it had power greater than Drizzt's power, put a number of +1/+1 counters on Drizzt equal to the difference. So there are a couple of things that I noticed about this. One, the flavor on this is amazing. So if Drizzt manages to kill something that's bigger than him, which he can do with his buddy Gwanhvar, Gwanhvar, I will never get that right. I'm just going to go ahead and say that right now. With his Panther friend, he's able to take on bigger creatures than himself. Although, actually, with Double Strike, naturally, Drizzt can take on a creature that has toughness 3 and any power. And so, if the creature is like a 10/3 for some reason, and Drizzt blocks it, or it gets blocked by it, Drizzt would kill it and immediately get a huge buff, getting 10 +1/+1 counters put on him. And that's before normal combat damage would resolve. And so the double strike damage is such that the first attack, the first strike damage, is 3 damage. And then because a creature died in that turn, if its power is greater than Drizzt's, then all of a sudden... then Drizzt becomes significantly bigger. So this combines beautifully with cards that give Death Touch. So anything that can give Drizzt Death Touch makes him one of the best blockers you have, because if you block, not only do you kill the thing with the first strike damage, but your creature now gets significantly bigger. So that's one bonus right there. So it combines beautifully with Death Touch. It also works really, really well with power boosting effects, like temporary combat tricks, those types of things, because that's just phenomenal. And then the other thing that this does is it gives you the 4/1 cat for free. This is producing 7 power on the board that hits like 10 power because of the double strike for 5. Let's just soak that in for a second. This is putting 7 damage on the board, 7 power on the board, 3 of which has double strike for 5. I believe this card is going to see tournament play. I think it is that good. You know, is it going to be top tier? I don't know. We haven't seen what else is coming out in the set, but I believe this card is going to make some waves. The one thing about Gwanhvar, I almost want to say Guinevere every time, and I know that's not right. So the other thing about Gwanhvar, Panther Buddy, the other thing about Panther Buddy here is Panther Buddy's pretty squishy. That's the only problem. It is a 4/1, so it dies to every piece of removal on the market. Even the lowly Spike Field Hazard can take this thing out. So that's a bummer. So the cat is all fangs without really any toughness to back that up. So that is a big problem if you're planning on leveraging it to pump Drizzt. Now, if the goal is just Drizzt Beatdown and Drizzt Voltron, and you're not really that worried about getting extra value off Gwanhvar, then it's just a bonus. And frankly, you could do a Voltron strategy with Drizzt without worrying about that. The other tricks that come to mind, recently printed in Strixhaven, Expanded Anatomy, it comes to mind, because giving something with double strike a combat boost, giving it a power toughness buff, you're basically giving it 2 buffs. Like, it's as good as doubling the buff. It's incredibly good. I cannot express how good double strike is. If we look at Twin Scroll Shaman from Strixhaven, which, if I have the foresight to edit this, I will put this up on screen if you're watching on the YouTube. Twin Scroll Shaman from Strixhaven is a 1/2 with double strike for 3, and it's a fair card. And in draft, it can actually be a good card sometimes. And so just that double strike is very, very meaningful. And the reason I point that out specifically is because you can do things like Expanded Anatomy, Gleam of Defiance, Guiding Voice. Cards that give +1/+1 counters to double strikers is very, very, very strong. And on top of that, Drizzt gives himself +1/+1 counters if you're getting good value in combat. So it's just... I think this card's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And on top of that, it's one of the most iconic creatures from the Forgotten Realms. I've read 1 Forgotten Realms novel. 1. You know who starred in it? Drizzt. You know, there's not much... I'm not a big pursuer of this particular... setting. Nothing against it. I just haven't devoted the time to it that many people have. And I have a lot of respect for that. But Drizzt is one of those characters that transcends the IP. Drizzt is well known. And I have to say, the flavor of giving Drizzt double strike makes sense because Drizzt is known for wielding double sabers. That's a very iconic look for him. That's kind of his thing. And so, or 2 scimitars rather, not sabers. I apologize if people were yelling into at their phones and at YouTube for that. But wielding dual scimitars is Drizzt's thing, and so it makes sense that double strike would be part of the card. Okay, I'm okay with that. It makes good sense. But the fact that it's a native 3/3, I believe that's a little too powerful. With cards like Twin Scroll Shaman, the toughness, or Shadrick, Silverquill is another great example. It's a card that's a 2/5 for 5 because it has double strike. So in the past, we've seen cards have lower power because they have double strike, just taking that double strike into account with the power toughness ratio. And with Drizzt, it doesn't look like they did that. It looks like they just slapped on double strike just cuz. Now, would Drizzt work very well as a 1/3? Maybe not. You know, you'd really have to devote some energy into it to really make him sing and really make him work in that situation. But as a 3/3, I feel like those base stats are very strong. So I think we're going to see a lot of this card. But as I was saying, Drizzt is a very, very... iconic figure, and I think it's very important that Drizzt be a part of the Forgotten Realms set in Magic. It just makes sense. The other cool thing is he is an elf ranger, so they have adopted, and actually Aaron Forsyth on Twitter actually threw out a comment about how one of the cool things about working with the D&D property is that they've really started to embrace ranger as a creature type, which I thought was kind of neat. And so that's something that's kind of a fun, flavorful element of it, and that makes sense because Drizzt is the iconic ranger. You know, in players' handbooks for years, if you looked at a ranger, there was probably a picture of Drizzt next to it. The other thing that I find really fascinating about this card that it really takes me aback is that the poster child, the most prominent figure, or one of the most prominent figures within the Forgotten Realms canon, is not a mythic card. That's something that I find fascinating. This is a rare. And so it's a big, splashy, powerful card that is an iconic character. That, to me, is what I believe mythic rares ought to be. So I am surprised to see Drizzt as rare. Now, I'm not mad that Drizzt is a rare. As somebody who plays a lot of Arena, I understand the difference between a rare wildcard and a mythic wildcard, and at the moment, rare wildcards, at least in my personal collection, appear to be in higher supply. So the idea of Drizzt being a rare versus a mythic, I'm not mad at that, but at the same time, I find it curious. That's something that this is not what I would have guessed would be Drizzt's rarity. If you had told me there would be a Drizzt card, what rarity do you think it would be? I would have said mythic, like in a snap, no question. So anyway, so this has been a look at Drizzt Do'Urden. I wish I could remember the rest of his title. for the life of me, I can't. It's the something of Menzoberranzan, I think is how it's pronounced. Anyway, the other cool thing about the D&D campaign, or the D&D campaign setting, and really diving into that with Magic, is how goofy some of the words are going to be. You're going to watch content creators like myself stumble over these words for the next few months, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie. I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, so this has been Drizzt. I'm definitely going to brew a deck around him as soon as he's released on Arena. You better believe it, because I believe that this card is just a powerhouse. It's really that simple. I think this card's great. Thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate you. You can catch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/hamhocks42 if you want to see that deck in action when the time comes. And yeah, I look forward to catching you there. And don't forget, you're a good person and you deserve to be happy. I'll catch you next time.